My mother passed away about a month ago, 3 months short of being 100 years old. And people used to ask Mom what brought us to this country, and she used to tell them a car. But the long version is my dad was a farmer rancher down the Oklahoma-Texas Panhandle. And he took us from Texas to southwestern Missouri down in the Ozarks because he figured you could run more cattle per acre down there in the Ozarks than you could in the Oklahoma Panhandle. From the Missouri Ozarks, we came back to the Oklahoma Panhandle where Dad was farming the family farm, and that was back in the early 60s, and they were tapping into the Ogallala Aquifer there to irrigate with, and Dad had an old boy come out and witch our farm, but we couldn't find any water there. In 1962, he brought us up to Seattle to the World's Fair, and we drove through the Columbia Basin here, and my dad fell in love with the Columbia Basin and came back in the winter 62, 63, and 63, 64, and bought a farm just north of Warden. And so in the summer of 64, we harvested our wheat, we sold the equipment, and my cousin took over the family farm. And when we left Oklahoma, we had a Chevrolet truck with cattle racks on it, a Chevrolet pickup with a canopy, an Oldsmobile car, and a Rambler station wagon. And we were just like John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath when we left Oklahoma, because we had everything with us that we owned other than the land in Washington. When we got to Washington in the summer of 64, my dad ran swather and combine for Earl Twilliger at that time, and my brother and I did irrigation for Earl Twilliger because we'd never irrigated before, and so that's how we learned to irrigate. And then Dad started farming our ground in the fall of 64 there, and so we actually, one of the farms Dad had was still in sagebrush, and we broke it out of sagebrush. So actually we've been farming in this area for 54 years, and a lot of this ground we farm, we've kind of came the full gamut with it. We put the concrete ditches on it, and then we've taken the concrete ditches out and put pivots on it. My brother and I both went to WSU and graduated with the degrees in agronomy in WSU. And I was affiliated with Green Acres Northwest, a partner in that, and we sold out to Wilbur Ellis in 1989, and I stayed with them for 20 years. I had excellent people at Wilbur Ellis working for me and excellent people on the farm working for me. So that's has been the key to my success is the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. And it's been a blessing to farm here in the Warden area. I mean, we've got a abundance of water. I mean, we've got good soil. We've got a lot of sunshine, and most of all, the people around this area are my friends and will be friends for my entire life. They would do anything for me, and I would do anything for them. So we have been honored, and we've been blessed to be a part of this community. I'll be 70 years old on my next birthday, and I have a couple of daughters, and nobody to take over the farm other than a 10-year-old grandson. He's ready to go tomorrow morning, but I don't think that'll quite work. So my wife and I, we've just decided it's time in our life to stop and smell the roses and do some traveling and enjoy life. And there's more to life than just working. I tell people I'm a plodder, and you just keep plodding along in through life, and you don't know any better. And my dad, his idea was it didn't matter whether it was your birthday or holiday. I mean, it's just another day of work, and we had work to do, and so get up and let's go. And so I think it's going to be just a new, interesting life for my wife and I to see some of the country we've always wanted to see. And that doesn't mean foreign travel. It's all going to be here in the United States. There's so many places here we want to go that we'll never live long enough to see everything we want to see here. So, like I say, I have been so blessed to have spent most of my life in the Columbia Basin, and it was probably the best thing that Dad did for our family is to move us out of the Oklahoma Panhandle up here to the Columbia Basin.
Outstanding. Hey, Lynn, talk a little bit about your switch over to John Deere with the pre-def, if you would.
Back in back in 2013, they were starting to switch tractors over to DEF tractors, and we had some Case tractors at that time and some John Deere tractors at that time, and I guess my thought at that time, I bought a couple of new John Deeres, and I thought at that time if I could just go ahead and make the switch and just trade everything in for pre-DEF tractors, then these tractors would last for all of my farming career. The thing of it is, I've not put on the hours that we normally would because we've leased out more of the ground. We've turned some lease ground loose. We've sold some ground too. When the prices were high, or as high as they are, we thought we ought to take advantage of selling some ground. So, and some of the ground we've rented out's been in alfalfa seed for 3 years that we haven't had a tractor on. So these are all late model, low hour pre-DEF tractors. They've always been serviced. They're always waxed and shedded after we're done with the season. If anybody's looking for some nice, well cared for equipment, it's all going to be for sale. I'm not holding back anything. I've rented the land out to Andy Jensen, so he's got all the equipment in the world. So if I need to borrow a tractor, use something, I've got access to it. So I'd be honored for everybody to show up to the sale. And if you need some equipment, I don't believe you'll find anything any better than what's sitting out here on our farm. My dad, when we were farming in Oklahoma, he had a dryland John Deere R. It's the first John Deere tractor I ever drove.
And what was the model?
It was a John Deere R, dryland version of a Model R John Deere was what we were farming with in Oklahoma, and from there we went to when got the bigger tractors, we went from the John Deere R to I think they called it I can't remember exactly the name, but anyway, it was like a Comfort King case. It was a 930 case model, and you talk to people down in that Oklahoma, Texas Panhandle, maybe even anywhere in Texas or Oklahoma, they'll tell you that that's God's country down there. But I'm telling you what, they're missing the boat, because this is by far God's country up here with the sunshine and the water and the good soil. I mean, here in this Warden area, I'm not to say we don't have any rocks. We'll kick up a rock once in a while, but it's all nice deep dirt, and produces as well as anything in the Columbia Basin here. Yeah. What I'm going to miss most about farming, I enjoy seeing the crops grow. It just from the start to the finish, but I just enjoy running the equipment, the tractors, and especially these new late model tractors where they're all GPS auto steer. I mean, the cabs are nice, the suspension's nice. They all ride good. It's just a pleasure to run the equipment. And just to see the accomplishments you've done at the end of the day, whether you're working a field or planting or whatever you're doing. I mean, just the experience of looking back at the end of the day and seeing what you've accomplished. It's nothing like it. I guess maybe you've got to be born to farm, but I guess you're born to farm, you die to farm. So hopefully I'll have some years left in me. And like I say, I was 15 years old when I moved out here in 1964, so you can do the math on that and figure out that it's about time for a guy to do something different with his life. Probably the one I enjoy running the most is the Cat Challenger. That's just amazing how much work that tractor will get done, and probably it would be my favorite tractor to run. Well, the first tractor I actually bought was it was a used 706 International. I bought it from a guy by the name of Dick Cox, and I was able to buy a little ground. That was back in the early 70s, and I was able to buy a little ground. And he had a 706 John Deere and a 10-foot John Deere offset disc, and flat clap disc is on the auction. I mean, the only thing we've done with it the last few years is just disc in some headlands and some pivot roads. But the first tractor I actually bought was 706 International, and from there we went to the cases. I'm going to say they were probably like a 2094 model, and then from a 2094 case to that's when the Magnums came out. The International Magnums came out, and we started buying the Magnums. We had the first Magnum we had was a 7110, and we ended up with a 7250 was one of the last ones, but we were running, I think, five Magnums at one time, and all different sizes, 7120 and 8920 and a 7140, and so from there we went to the new tractors. We had a 275 case and a 235 case, the newer model cases, and then from there we switched out of the cases and started buying John Deeres. It just seemed like you guys could buy the cases a little cheaper than the John Deeres, but it got to the point where the John Deeres you could buy them for the same money, horsepower to horsepower, and just a driver operator convenience, and the GPS on the John Deeres, the IVT transmissions, the suspension on the front ends. It's amazing what these new tractors will pull, and how they get the work done.
Yeah, and so how long did it take you to get all of your tractors? How many years?
It probably took, well, I mean, when I first started buying tractors was about 45 years ago, I guess, and so I mean, you just kept about the same amount of tractors over the years. I mean, we've got, I think, one less than what we used to have, but we're farming about 1,000 acres less than we're farming at one time.
Yeah, so about 40-something years to get your whole arsenal.
Yes. I mean, the way over that 40 years, you just keep upgrading tractors. If something newer and better comes along, you just continually upgrade and keep everything new and modern. I guess for the amount of help we had and the amount of ground we had, we always felt like we needed to maintain good late model equipment, because we didn't have time to be, whether it's the circles or whether it's the actual farm equipment, we didn't have time to be working on stuff. I mean, when we're in the field, we had to be running. So I guess it's always been my philosophy to run good late model equipment, some of the stuff that's dependable, and when you get to the field, you're going to get the job done.
Yeah. So how many hours would you say you spent in this tractor here?
Oh, I've probably spent, I'm going to say probably 700 hours or so just in this one. I think it's got 1,800 hours on it. There's other people that have driven it and used it, but me personally, I've probably put 700 hours on this tractor. Farming's changed a lot. Like I say, the first tractor was a dryland version of the clutch. It had an old iron seat on it, and had a hand clutch to engage it, and we were, like I say, farming. At the time I started running tractors, we were farming in the Oklahoma Panhandle there, and we had a one-way plow. It was a 15-foot, and it's a furrow, so you'd run the tractor in the furrow, and you just go round and round in the field, and like I say, it just had an old iron seat on it. So the way Dad made it comfortable for us to be able to drive the thing is to put gunny sacks on the seat for comfort. So the more comfort you wanted, the more gunny sacks you put on the seat.
Yeah. Wow, these look very well kept.
Yeah, like I say, they've always been serviced. They've always been, anything that's wrong with them has been fixed. In the winter, when we're done for the season, they're washed and they're waxed, and we can shed everything except for the Cat Challenger. It's too big to get in the shop, but all 5 of the John Deeres are washed and waxed and serviced and in under the weather for the winter. It's kind of bittersweet, I guess. You've been doing this all your life, and it's been a wonderful career and a tremendous blessing, and but it's kind of bittersweet. It's going to be fun and enjoyable to do something else in life and to see some different country and go places and do things. But I've always loved farming. There's no place better in the world to farm than right here in the Columbia Basin. So it's a little bittersweet, but it's all good. And like I say, I've been blessed. I've been fortunate. I've got a good wife and a good life, and it's just time to. She's been very understanding and very accepting of me putting in the long hours, 7 days a week. So it's gonna be like a honeymoon with her all over again.